The quantum sensors detected them first, a cascade of ripples in space-time that heralded the arrival of something massive. Commander Elena Santos stood in Earth's primary defense center, watching as the holographic display transformed from its usual calm blue to an urgent red. The Rakian ships emerged from quantum space like a swarm of crystalline insects, their bioorganic hulls refracting starlight in impossible patterns. 718 vessels, Lieutenant Park announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Largest concentration in high Earth orbit, smaller groups positioning themselves over major population centers. Elena studied the tactical display, noting how the alien ships arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns. The Rakians were nothing if not precise, each ship positioned with mathematical exactitude, forming massive crystalline formations in orbit. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. They're broadcasting, Communications Chief Garcia reported. All frequencies, all languages simultaneously. Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the central screen. Let's hear their demands. The voice that filled the command center wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of the mechanical or harsh tones they'd prepared for, it was melodious, almost hypnotic. Children of Earth, it began, each word resonating with an unsettling harmony. We are the Rakian collective, shepherds of evolution, guardians of perfection. We have watched your stumbling progress, your crude attempts at civilization. Now we offer you ascension. Elena exchanged glances with her second-in-command, Colonel Chen. They'd war-gamed hundreds of first contact scenarios, but this didn't match any of them. Your genetic code is adequate. The voice continued, managing to sound both complimentary and condescending. A promising foundation. Through our guidance, your species will be uplifted, transformed into something greater. Resistance is not an option we extend. The process begins in 24 Earth hours. The transmission ended, leaving an eerie silence in the command center. Elena's fingers tightened on the edge of her console. Show me the scans of their ships again. The holographic display zoomed in on one of the Rakian vessels. Unlike traditional spacecraft, these seemed almost alive. Layers of crystalline material grew and shifted, maintaining their perfect geometric shapes through constant microscopic adjustments. Ma'am, Dr. Patel, their xenobiologist, called from her station. You need to see this. Their ships, they're not just crystalline. They're organic, and the energy patterns we're detecting, they match brainwave frequencies. Elena felt her blood run cold as the pieces clicked into place. They're not ships at all, are they? No, Patel confirmed. They're more like massive neurons, part of a biological network. And look at these readings. They're preparing for some kind of massive biological transmission. Contact the Artemis base, Elena ordered. Authorization Shadow 7 Delta. Wake up, Oracle. Colonel Chen's eyes widened. Ma'am, Oracle isn't ready. The quantum disruption field is still experimental. It's ready enough. Elena straightened, squaring her shoulders. And send a message to all major military commands. Implementation of Protocol Winter Shield begins now. As her orders were relayed, Elena accessed a secure quantum channel on her neural interface. The face that appeared in her mind's eye was tired but alert. Director Sarah Chen of the Artemis program. They're here, Elena said simply. Numbers, 700 plus. And Sarah, they're not what we expected. They're not here to conquer us. They want to transform us, genetically. The moment of silence. The simulation protocols won't work. They're not interested in negotiations or surrender terms. They're treating this like a medical procedure, not a conquest. Sarah's expression hardened. The preserved DNA samples from their previous victims match what we're seeing. Every species they've uplifted has been transformed into components of their biological network. They're not an empire. They're a massive organic computer, consuming civilizations and converting them into neural pathways. How long? 24 hours before they begin. Sarah nodded. Oracle will be ready in 18. Keep them talking. We need to understand more about their biological network's quantum architecture. And if Oracle fails, then humanity dies free rather than lives as neurons in their collective. Sarah's image flickered. Good hunting, Commander. The connection closed, and Alina turned back to her command staff. Around her, the best minds of Earth's defense forces worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for a battle unlike any humanity had trained for. They weren't facing conquest or extinction, but something far worse: the death of human individuality itself. Dr. Patel, she called. I want everything you can tell me about their biological technology. Colonel Chen, begin evacuation of surface populations to the deep shelters. And someone get me a direct channel to these shepherds of evolution. Let's see how they handle a species that asks too many questions. As her orders were carried out, Alina studied the crystalline ships above. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, building hidden defenses and developing new technologies. But now, facing an enemy that didn't want to destroy them but transform them, she wondered if they'd prepared for the right war. The Rakians had called Earth's children, but in doing so, they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd assumed humanity's relative youth made them naive. They were about to learn that sometimes the children surpass their would-be teachers. In the depths of lunar base Artemis, Oracle hummed to life. Humanity's secret weapon against a threat that glimpsed decades ago through experimental quantum telescopes. The game of evolution was about to take an unexpected turn, and humanity wasn't playing by the Rakians' rules. Alina squared her shoulders and opened a channel to the Rakian fleet. This is Commander Alina Santos of the Earth Defense Force, she began, her voice steady. We have some questions about your generous offer of ascension. The response was immediate, that same melodious voice filling the command center. Questions are irrelevant. Acceptance is inevitable. We have uplifted thousands of species. None have resisted successfully. Alina allowed herself a small smile. Well, she said, there's a first time for everything. 2 kilometers beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Kai Chen watched streams of quantum data flow across his holographic displays. The Oracle facility hummed with barely contained power, decades of secret research culminating in this moment. Around him, teams of scientists and engineers worked with quiet intensity, making final adjustments to the massive quantum disruption array. Another transmission from the Rakians, his AI assistant reported. They're growing impatient with Commander Santos's questions. Kai allowed himself a grim smile. Alina was doing exactly what they needed, keeping the Rakians focused on Earth while the real counterstrike took shape in the shadows. The quantum scans of the alien fleet were revealing more with each passing hour. Show me the latest neural pathway analysis, he commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing the intricate patterns of the Rakian biological network. It was beautiful in its complexity and horrifying in its implications. They've integrated over 3,000 species into their network, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, his quantum biology specialist, noted. Each transformed civilization becomes a new processing node. But look at these patterns here. She highlighted a section of the display. There's evidence of resistance. Some species fought the transformation on a cellular level. Kai leaned closer, studying the data. Can we use that? Find a weakness in their biological programming. Better. Yuki's eyes sparkled with discovery. We can wake them up. The implications hit Kai like a physical force. Project Oracle had been designed as a weapon, a way to disrupt the Rakian network through quantum interference. But if they could actually free the enslaved species, how long until the array is ready? Primary systems at 93%, his AI reported. But Dr. Chen, there's something else you need to see. We've detected anomalous quantum signatures from the Rakian fleet. They're preparing something big. The display shifted again, showing energy buildups across the alien armada. Whatever the Rakians were planning, they weren't waiting for their announced deadline. "Get me Commander Santos," Kai ordered. Alina's face appeared in his neural link moments later, her expression tense but controlled. "They're not waiting 24 hours, are they?" she asked before he could speak. "No. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing for a mass biological transmission." "How are the evacuations going?" 70% of surface populations are in the deep shelters. "But Kai, we're seeing something strange. The Rakians are targeting specific genetic markers. They're selecting for certain traits in the human genome." Kai felt a chill run down his spine. "They're not just trying to absorb us. They're trying to breed us. Like they've done before," Alina agreed. "Check your historical database. Every species they've uplifted shows signs of selective genetic manipulation going back generations. They've been preparing humanity for this moment for thousands of years." Kai turned to another display, pulling up ancient human genetic data. The patterns were subtle but undeniable. Certain traits had been quietly encouraged through seemingly random environmental pressures. Humanity's rapid cognitive evolution, our adaptability, even our capacity for complex social networks, all had been guided by an invisible hand. "They've been watching us since before we learned to make fire," he whispered. "Everything we are, everything we've become, was part of their plan," Alina finished. "Except for one thing. Oracle." "Exactly. The one variable they couldn't predict because it operates outside their understanding of physics." "How close are you?" Kai checked the system status. "We need 3 more hours to achieve full power." "Alina, if we're wrong about this, then humanity becomes part of their network, and Earth becomes another processing node in their biological computer." Her voice hardened. "That's not happening. Whatever it takes, whatever the cost, we remain free." The transmission ended, leaving Kai alone with the weight of humanity's future. Around him, Oracle's quantum processors spun up to speeds that defied conventional physics, tapping into layers of reality the Rakians had never discovered. Dr. Chen, one of his technicians, called out, "We're detecting organic compounds in the upper atmosphere. They're seeding Earth's air with their genetic modifiers." "Deploy the nanite countermeasures," he ordered. That, at least, they had prepared for. Swarms of microscopic machines designed to neutralize alien biological agents. Another card in humanity's hidden hand. A new alert flashed across his display. The Rakians were broadcasting again, but this time directly to Oracle's location. They had discovered their hidden facility. "Children of Earth," the melodious voice filled the chamber. "Your attempts at resistance are interesting. You have developed technologies we did not anticipate, but they cannot save you from evolution. Submit to ascension, and your uniqueness will be preserved within our network." Kai opened a channel to respond. "We've studied your network," he said calmly. "We've seen what you do to the species you uplift. Tell me, do the others scream? The thousands of civilizations trapped in your biological prison, are they still conscious in there? Still aware as you use their neural patterns for processing power?" A pause. When the voice returned, it had lost some of its harmonic quality. "They are at peace. They serve the greater whole. As you will." "No," Kai replied. "We won't. Humanity doesn't serve. We cooperate, we grow, we learn, but we don't submit, and we're about to teach you why." He closed the channel and turned to his team. "Begin quantum initialization sequence. Full power to the disruption array. It's time to show them what real evolution looks like." In orbit, the Rakian ships continued their perfect geometric dance, unaware that their carefully constructed plans were about to encounter something they had never faced before, a species that had turned their own manipulations into a weapon against them. The true test of Project Oracle was about to begin, and with it, the fate of not just humanity, but every species the Rakians had ever enslaved hung in the balance. In the depths of Luna, humanity's hidden hand was finally ready to show its cards. Admiral Sarah O'Neill stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, hidden in the shadows of Saturn's rings. Around her vessel, a fleet of 300 ships waited in perfect silence, their quantum stealth systems making them invisible, even to the Rakians' advanced biotech sensors. 20 years of secret construction, all leading to this moment. Signal from Lunar Base, her tactical officer reported. Oracle is initiating. Time to primary effect. 3 minutes. Sarah watched the tactical display as the Rakian fleet continued their methodical deployment around Earth. Their crystalline ships had begun releasing clouds of biological agents into the upper atmosphere, their first attempt at forced evolution. They still hadn't detected the nanite countermeasures destroying their genetic modifiers, or the true scale of humanity's preparations. All ships, battle stations, she ordered quietly. Quantum drives to full power. Targeting systems locked on designated coordinates. Remember your training. We'll only get one shot at this. The bridge crew moved with practiced precision. These ships weren't like anything humanity had publicly revealed. Each vessel was equipped with quantum disruption technology, derived from Project Oracle's research, designed specifically to interact with the Rakians' biological network. 2 minutes to Oracle activation. The countdown continued. On her neural link, Sarah received real-time updates from both Elena at Earth Defense Command and Kai at the Oracle facility. The Rakians were preparing something big. Energy readings from their fleet were spiking dramatically. They've detected the quantum buildup, her sensor officer reported. Their ships are beginning to shift formation. Let them. Sarah smiled grimly. They have no idea what they're really sensing. The Rakian fleet's perfect geometric patterns began to change, crystalline vessels realigning themselves into new configurations. They thought they were preparing to defend against a conventional attack. They were wrong. 1 minute. Sarah opened a channel to her fleet. For 3 decades, humanity prepared for this moment. We watched as the Rakians consumed civilization after civilization, turning free beings into components in their biological computer. Today, we show them that humanity isn't just another species to be absorbed. We are the fire that burns their network to ash. Oracle activating in 3, 2, 1. From the lunar surface, invisible waves of quantum energy burst forth. The effect was instantaneous. The perfectly aligned Rakian fleet suddenly shuddered, their crystalline structures flickering as the quantum disruption field interfered with their neural network. Now, Sarah commanded, all ships, execute jump pattern Delta. The human fleet materialized from quantum space directly among the disoriented Rakian vessels. But instead of conventional weapons, each ship broadcast its own synchronized quantum field, amplifying Oracle's effect. The results exceeded their most optimistic projections. The Rakian ships, living processors in their vast biological network, began to lose cohesion. Their perfect geometric forms wavered as millions of enslaved minds within their neural matrices suddenly found themselves free to think independently again. We're receiving signals. Communications reported, voice filled with wonder. Thousands of them. Different languages, different species. They're waking up. Sarah watched as the massive Rakian fleet began to splinter. Some ships maintained their crystalline formation, but others were transforming, their biological structures reshaping themselves as their newly freed occupants fought for control. This is Admiral Sarah O'Neill of Earth. She broadcast on all frequencies. To all awakened species within the Rakian network, we offer you freedom. For too long, you've been trapped in their biological prison. Today, humanity helps you break those chains. The response was chaos, but chaos of the most beautiful kind. Signals in thousands of languages flooded their communications as species that had been enslaved for centuries began to remember themselves. But the Rakians weren't finished. Their remaining loyal ships began to move with desperate purpose, their crystalline forms pulsing with new energy patterns. They're attempting to reestablish control. Kai's voice came through the neural link. The primary nodes are generating some kind of quantum feedback loop. Counter it, Sarah ordered. All ships, full power to disruption fields. Don't let them rebuild their network. The space around Earth became a battlefield unlike any in human history. It wasn't fought with conventional weapons, but with quantum fields and biological commands. Human ships darted between the massive Rakian vessels, their disruption fields preventing the alien network from reforming, while helping more enslaved minds break free. "Admiral," her tactical officer called out. New contacts appearing in the outer system. More Rakian ships. At least 1,000 of them. Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd expected reinforcements, but not so soon. Status of the primary fleet. 60% of the original ships show signs of awakening. The rest remain under Rakian control. Oracle's effect is holding, but power levels are starting to fluctuate. She made her decision instantly. Signal Earth Defense Command. Tell Elena to begin Phase 2. Then target the arriving fleet's primary node ships. We need to disrupt their command structure before they can link with the remaining loyal vessels. As her orders were carried out, Sarah watched the tactical display with fierce pride. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this fight, developing technologies and strategies specifically designed to counter the Rakians. But more than that, they'd done what no other species had managed. They'd found a way to free the enslaved from their neural prison. "Admiral," communications called out urgently. "We're receiving a transmission from one of the awakened ships. You need to hear this." The voice that filled the bridge was unlike anything they'd heard before. A chorus of different species speaking in perfect harmony, but not with the artificial perfection of the Rakian network. This was the sound of free minds choosing to work together. "Children of Earth," the chorus spoke, "you have given us back ourselves. Now let us help you finish this fight. We know the Rakians' weaknesses. We know how their network thinks. Together, we can end their forced evolution forever." Sarah smiled. This was more than a victory. It was a revolution. The Rakians had spent millennia building their biological empire, absorbing species into their network. They never imagined that humanity would find a way to turn their own enslaved minds against them. "Signal our new allies," she ordered. "Tell them we accept their help. It's time to show the Rakians what real evolution looks like. Species working together by choice, not through forced biological absorption." The battle for Earth was far from over, but the tide had turned. In their arrogance, the Rakians had dismissed humanity as primitive. Now they faced not just one species fighting for freedom, but an alliance of thousands, each bringing their own knowledge and determination to the fight. The real war was just beginning. Commander Elena Santos stood in Earth's primary defense center, now transformed into an unprecedented diplomatic hub. Around her, holographic representatives of newly awakened species filled the chamber. Beams of crystal, light, and forms human eyes could barely comprehend. Each had been enslaved by the Rakians, their civilizations turned into processing nodes. Now they were free, and they were angry. "The Rakian reinforcement fleet carries improved neural suppressors," announced a crystalline entity that had once been part of the Meridian Collective. Its translucent form shimmered with internal light as it spoke. "They learned from our awakening. They won't make the same mistake twice." "Then we'll make new mistakes," Elena replied, earning surprised ripples of appreciation from the assembled aliens. "Dr. Chen, what's Oracle's status?" Kai's hologram appeared, his expression tense but determined. "We've improved the quantum disruption field, but the power requirements are enormous. We can't maintain the current effect much longer without burning out the primary arrays." "We may not need to," interrupted another alien representative. "This one is swirling vortex of bioluminescent particles. My people, the Vriks, were among the first species the Rakians absorbed. We were quantum engineers before our enslavement, with your Oracle technology and our knowledge. You can help us upgrade it." Kai finished, his eyes lighting up with understanding. "The quantum principles we discovered independently, you already knew them. Better." The Vriks representative rippled with enthusiasm. "We can show you how to make them self-sustaining." In orbit, Admiral O'Neill's fleet had merged with the liberated Rakian ships, forming an extraordinary armada. The freed vessels had begun transforming. their crystalline structures reflecting their occupants' true natures rather than the rigid patterns of the Rakian network. Multiple quantum signatures detected, her sensor officer reported. The reinforcement fleet is preparing to jump. Energy readings are off the scale. Sarah opened a neural link to Elena's command center. They're coming in hot. Whatever improvements they've made to their neural suppressors, they're confident they'll work. Then let's show them something they've never seen before, Elena responded. All awakened species, initiate protocol battle. It was a plan born of desperate inspiration. Each freed species possessed unique insights into the Rakian network, weaknesses, backdoors, and hidden protocols they'd observed during their enslavement. Combined with human quantum technology, these insights became weapons. The space around Earth erupted in quantum chaos as the reinforcement fleet arrived. Over 1,000 Rakian vessels emerged from quantum space, their crystalline forms arranged in even more complex geometric patterns than before. But this time, they faced something unprecedented. A unified front of humanity and their former slaves. Signal from the Rakian command ship. Communications announced. Text only. It's in every language simultaneously. The message appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Your resistance is an evolutionary dead end. Submit to ascension or face extinction. This is your final warning. Elena looked around the command center at the representatives of species who had faced that same choice before. Shall we show them our answer? The chamber filled with sounds of agreement in 1,000 different forms. Crystalline chimes, quantum pulses, and harmonics beyond human hearing. Each species contributed its unique signature to a combined response that turned the very fabric of space into a weapon. In lunar orbit, Oracle's arrays pulsed with new power as Frick's quantum engineering merged with human innovation. The combined fleet began moving in patterns that seemed random but followed principles of quantum mechanics that the Rakians had never imagined. They're firing. Sarah's tactical officer shouted. The Rakian fleet launched its attack, not with conventional weapons, but with waves of neural energy designed to overwhelm and reabsorb their freed processors. But as the energy waves reached the Allied fleet, something extraordinary happened. The quantum disruption field. Kai reported, his voice filled with wonder. It's not just blocking their attack, it's learning from it. The Vrix modifications are working better than we hoped. Each attempted neural assault made their defenses stronger. The freed species, their minds linked voluntarily through human quantum technology, rather than Rakian biological control, began to coordinate in ways that transcended normal physics. Multiple signatures, sensors called out, more ships emerging from quantum space. For a moment, everyone tensed, expecting more Rakian reinforcements. But these ships were different. Vessels from the far reaches of Rakian space, responding to a call that had propagated through the quantum disruption field. More enslaved species, awakening and breaking free. They feel it, the Meridian representative explained, its crystalline form pulsing with emotion. Across their entire empire, the enslaved are remembering who they are. Your oracle didn't just free us. It showed us how to free others. Elena watched as the tactical display transformed. What had begun as a desperate defense of Earth had become something more. A cascading revolution that threatened the very foundation of the Rakian Empire. But the Rakians weren't finished. Their command ship began to pulse with new energy patterns, its crystalline structure reconfiguring into something even their freed slaves had never seen before. They're activating something, the Vrix representative warned, its particle form swirling with concern. Something old. Something from before they began their forced evolution program. All ships, battle stations, Sarah ordered. Whatever they're planning, we face it together. As the Rakian command ship completed its transformation, Elena looked at the assembled representatives of countless freed species. Humanity had prepared for decades to face this threat, but they'd never imagined they'd be fighting alongside the very beings they'd hoped to save. They called us children, she addressed the chamber. They thought that made us weak. But children grow up. Children learn. and sometimes children surpassed their would-be teachers. The final battle for the future of organic evolution was about to begin, and at its heart was a truth the Rakians had never understood. True advancement comes not from forced assimilation, but from the chaotic, beautiful complexity of free minds working together. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but what they and their new allies would become in the process of winning their freedom. The Rakian command ship's transformation was unlike anything the combined fleet had ever witnessed. Its crystalline structure didn't just change. It reverted, revealing layers of ancient technology beneath the biological components. As the outer shell peeled away, something emerged that made even the oldest freed species gasp in recognition. "Impossible," the Vrix representative whispered, its particle form trembling. "That design. Those are predecessor artifacts. The same technology we discovered in our ancient ruins before the Rakians came." Dr. Kai Chen, monitoring from the Oracle facility, focused his quantum sensors on the revealed structure. The energy signatures. They're similar to Oracle's quantum field, but far more primitive, almost like they were copying something they didn't fully understand. Elena finished. The implications stunned her. They're not the original architects of their empire, are they? They're copying someone else's work, badly. The Rakian command ship pulsed with ancient energy, broadcasting a signal that made every quantum sensor in the human fleet scream in protest. But this time, their message wasn't the usual harmonious chorus. It was fractured, desperate. "You force us to reveal the old ways." The transmission began, its once perfect harmony now discordant. "The ways of our teachers." Admiral Sarah O'Neill, coordinating the combined fleet's defense, recognized the opportunity. "Full scan of that signal," she ordered. "Every quantum signature, every frequency. If they're reaching into their past, I want to know what they're trying to hide." The scan revealed more than they'd hoped. Buried in the quantum frequencies were fragments of data, ancient records, genetic memories, and buried protocols that the Rakians had tried to erase from their own network. By all that lives, the Meridian representative's crystalline form flickered with shock. They were like us. The Rakians. They were enslaved too, transformed by some even older species. The revelation spread through the combined fleet like a shockwave. The Rakians, self-proclaimed shepherds of evolution, were themselves the products of forced evolution. Their biological empire wasn't innovation. It was trauma repeated across generations, victims becoming victimizers. "Look at these genetic markers," Kai reported, analyzing the ancient data. Their original form was organic, but far simpler. Something changed them, used the same techniques they're using on others. They're not evolving species, they're recreating their own transformation. Elena faced the holographic representation of the Rakian command ship. "Your teachers," she called out. "The ones who changed you. What happened to them?" The response came slowly, the harmonious voice breaking further. "They ascended, left us their tools, their methods, told us to continue their work, to prepare the galaxy for their return. And you never questioned it." Elena pressed, never wondered if there was another way. Questioning was removed. Compliance was engineered into our very cells. We became perfect. Sarah's tactical display suddenly lit up with new warnings. The Rakian reinforcement fleet was moving, their formations shifting into attack patterns. But something was different. Their movements were rigid, automated, like they were being controlled by ancient protocols rather than conscious thought. "They're not attacking," the Vrix representative realized. "They're running a program, one so deeply embedded in their genetic code they can't stop it." Kai's voice cut through the command channel. "Oracle's detecting massive power buildup in the predecessor artifacts. Whatever they're trying to do, it's drawing energy from every ship in their fleet." "Not trying," Elena corrected, watching the patterns emerge. "Being forced to do." Those artifacts, they're not just technology. They're chains binding the Rakians to their teachers' will across millennia. The choice before them was clear. They could destroy the Rakian fleet now, while it was locked in its ancient protocols. End the threat forever. But Elena saw another path, one that humanity had been preparing for without even knowing it. "Dr. Chen," she called. "The quantum disruption field. You said it's not just blocking their network, but learning from it. Can you modify it? Not to break their connections, but to heal them." Kai's eyes widened with understanding. "The Vrix modifications, if we combine them with what we've learned about the predecessor artifacts." He turned to the alien representatives. "Your species. Each of you was transformed differently, but Oracle freed you all. Together, we might be able to reset them." The Meridian representative finished. "Not to what they were, that's impossible after so long, but to what they could have been without the chains." Admiral O'Neill's voice cut in. "Whatever we're doing, we need to do it fast. Those artifacts are building to some kind of quantum cascade. Minutes at most." The next moments were a blur of activity. The freed species, working through Oracle's quantum network, each contributed their understanding of the Rakian transformations. Kai's team, augmented by Vrix quantum engineering, modified the disruption field's frequency to match the ancient artifact's power signature. The Rakian fleet hung in space, trapped in patterns laid down before humanity's ancestors had learned to make fire. In their rigid geometry, Elena saw not strength but desperation. The actions of beings so afraid of imperfection that they'd surrendered their free will to the very force that had enslaved them. They're afraid, she realized. Not of us. Of freedom. Of having to choose their own path. "Then let's show them what freedom looks like," Sarah responded. "All ships, execute final defense pattern. Channel all power to Oracle's modified field." The combined fleet moved as one, not in the perfect patterns of the Rakians, but in a dance of organized chaos. Each ship, each species contributing its unique perspective to create something greater than the sum of its parts. When Oracle's modified quantum field reached the Rakian fleet, the effect was beyond anything they'd simulated. The ancient artifacts, designed to enforce compliance, instead became conduits for liberation. The rigid patterns of the Rakian ships began to shift, not breaking but transforming, finding new forms that reflected choice rather than compulsion. The harmony of the Rakian voice changed too. The artificial perfection cracked, replaced by something rougher but more genuine. Individual voices emerged from the chorus, speaking not in unison, but in conversation. "We, I." The first distinct Rakian voice in millennia struggled with the concept of individual identity. "What have you done to us?" "Nothing," Elena replied. "We've just shown you what you could have been, what you still can be. Not perfect, not unified, but free. The choice of what to do with that freedom is yours." The battle for Earth ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The Rakian fleet, awakened to choice for the first time since their own enslavement, faced the terrifying freedom of self-determination. Many ships remained in orbit, their crews struggling to understand their new existence. Others departed, seeking to spread the gift of freedom to the far reaches of their empire. In Earth's primary defense center, Elena stood among the representatives of a dozen freed species. Humanity's first major step into the galactic community hadn't come through conquest or submission, but through an act of healing that transformed not just their enemies, but the very nature of organic evolution in the galaxy. "The predecessors may return one day," the Vrix representative noted. "Their influence spreads far beyond what we've seen here." "Let them come," Elena replied. "They'll find something they never expected. Species working together not through force or biological programming, but through choice. That's what real evolution looks like." As the newly freed Rakians began their journey of self-discovery, humanity, and their allies prepared for the challenges ahead. The age of forced evolution was over. The age of chosen cooperation had begun. In the depths of lunar base Artemis, Oracle hummed with new power. Not just a weapon now, but a symbol of what was possible when species chose to face the future together. The price of pride had been paid not in destruction, but in transformation, teaching even the teachers that true perfection lies not in control, but in the beautiful chaos of freedom.